Paradox Interactive? You better not screw this one up. So as many of you might have heard, Victoria 3 has been announced by Paradox Interactive. And while I'm not necessarily a channel that deals with games or gaming or anything of the sort, I mainly just do that on my Twitch, a lot of you might know that I am a big fan of historical war games, specifically Victoria 2, which is now going to be a predecessor, weird to say, to Victoria 3, a game which has been waited on and been hyped up for about a decade now. For those of you who don't know, Victoria is a game which takes place in the Victoria era. It is heavily based on your population and diplomacy in order to achieve your goals versus what everyone might think of in a grand strategy game as, well, war and fighting. In fact, Victoria 2 does have a lot of war and fighting and armies being a necessary part of it, such as armies were important during the 19th century. Most of it is dealing with your population, managing your taxes, managing the economy, and managing your sphere of influence when you become a great power. To put it simply, another way to look at Victoria 2 is that it takes place during the time period of the Lighting the Powder Keg series I'm working on, which you can watch by clicking this little bar up here. If this segment feels out of place because of the edit, just wait till the end, it'll make sense. This game is extremely fun and I really enjoy playing it with friends. I actually just started a stream on Twitch not too long ago, just basically me and a couple buddies, my brother and a friend of mine, playing the game. I'm making this mainly because I have been waiting for this game since I began playing Victoria 2 about 6 years ago or so. I've been playing for a very long time and I've slowly learned the game and it's been very fun to play. I've really enjoyed it. There are some bugs, which is why I'm waiting for the third one, I should say. And I figured I might as well make this video to talk about my thoughts on what I've read about the game and my thoughts as to where the game should go in the direction it should take, because just like buttholes, everyone has an opinion and they all stink. So let's go forward and talk about specifically my opinion on the Victoria series, what it does right and what it does wrong, and how the third one is going to fix it and how the third one should fix it in general, from a historian's perspective and someone who does enjoy gaming and realizes that there is a balance between realism and playability. So basically, Victoria 2 does a lot of things right in terms of really showing the immigration and the different policies that affect the people of your nation. The things that it does wrong is the people's reactions to it. There are far more revolutions in your nations than what actually happen in real life. And while I understand this is more or less a playability factor, want to give people something to do, rather than just sitting around and waiting for the dates to go by as you slowly grow your economy and your sphere of influence, because who would ever find that fun, except Facebook moms who play those waiting garden games. There's this problem of trying to balance that. So I think that Victoria 3, at least from what I've seen, is a much more easy to manage in terms of understanding what's going on. Victoria 2 had a very awesome population system that worked very well. Unfortunately, it was very difficult to understand what was affecting your pops and, well, why they were doing what they were doing. Victoria 3 seems to be approaching it from, let's try to use the population system because that is what Victoria 2 is based on, and let's make it something easier to understand for the player and something that the player can understand what they can do to properly manage it. Something more accessible to the average player rather than someone who's been playing it for 5 years who has finally been able to learn all the ins and outs of the game. So that's a great thing that the game is doing and what the game is fixing that the Victoria 2 just could not do properly. Another problem of Victoria 2 that I hope Victoria 3 fixes is navies and the fact that they're kind of useless and that naval battles are kind of trash in general. Navies don't really have a big effect on the game, and that's easy to see simply by the fact that I've been able to have very successful games without even needing a navy at all. Simply by using diplomacy, you can avoid any sort of conflict with the high navy nations that might disrupt your economy temporarily during a war. But in general, you don't necessarily need one unless you want to colonize everywhere. And colonizing everywhere is only really useful if that's really a goal of yours, because it doesn't really matter for some nations. So there you have it. You don't necessarily need a navy in the game unless you're playing as specific nations. And in that case, then you do need a navy. But not that big, because other nations just won't really formulate one that can really go against you, and then you can just ally nations that have a bigger navy than you and use that navy to further your own goals. Thus, navies aren't critically important in the game like they should be, like they were in real life. And so that's something that Victoria 3 can fix. Something I do like is the fact that there is a hint that you'll have national leaders with names and hopefully attributes that can affect your nation. This was hinted at in one of their screenshots in their announcement page on their basically homepage of the game. I think that's really, really important. Victoria 2 failed in such a major way with such a heavy focus on population and the way that people react to things. They completely failed on the aspect of giving your nations actual leaders with attributes. See, during the 19th century, a lot of revolutions and a lot of unrest came from the leader of the nation when it was a monarchy, and even democracies, or whatever Britain is. And this would greatly affect the population. Tsar Nicholas II basically was the reason the communist revolutions broke out. His personality traits rubbed the people the wrong way. His decisions, because of his personality traits, rubbed the people the wrong way and exasperated the problems that already existed within Russia. Kaiser Wilhelm II had certain personality traits that made diplomacy with other nations more difficult because he was very, very brazen and abrasive when it came to diplomatic dealings. So it can come down to this situation where having these national figures can then affect your nation in certain ways, so that then you have to manage that ship. You have to manage that nation with those effects that the person brings. And Victoria 3 is bringing that to the fold. You know, it can even affect revolutions. Take, for example, Austria in the 1848 revolutions. The people were very angry. The Kaiser was seen as incompetent, i.e., you know, the Austrian Kaiser, the Austrian leader. And so they ousted him and brought in Franz Josef, who, when he came into power, the revolutions were quickly put down and Austria went into a relative state of stability for the next umpteenth years until World War I. Granted, there were a few revolutions intermingled, but relative stability. So there's that aspect that's bringing a lot of realism into the game while also increasing the playability, which is just a great aspect that Victoria 2 kind of failed on. Now, there isn't much to say about the economy. There isn't really much there in terms of the screenshot that was given. I'm sure people who are going to dig into it more and do this whole analysis of what they're seeing will be able to figure out all the stuff and make assumptions about the game. I'm not here to do that. I'm here to discuss the historical accuracy and versus the playability of the game and how the game can work better, in my opinion, which a lot of you might disagree with. I don't know. It's your opinion too. You guys have your own, so don't make me change your mind on things. One thing that I do hope that happens is the way that the militaries work and the way that they're structured. I hope that that changes, because in Victoria 2, they're very much structured like Crusader Kings 2 and EU 4. And while that does work for those games, in Victoria 2, wars go from being this unilateral, sort of very maneuver heavy, and very much so you have 2 stacks of men versus 2 stacks of men, and you guys have to maneuver around, try to get the other guy to have attrition, and then defeat in detail. Then you get to these huge armies with tons of stacks, and the AI just loves to clump them up into huge stacks and just go, you know, across the nation, losing everybody. And it just becomes this weird, oh crap, there's just huge stacks of men, and they don't form a single battle line, and it just becomes this confusing mess where you can't really formulate into a battle line like in World War I. So there's definitely some AI issues that need to be fixed, and there's some battle issues that need to be fixed in terms of how the armies work. What those fixes are, I can't tell you. I did get a degree in computer sciences, but I'm not a programmer. I'm not a game designer. I don't know what these fixes are. I just know that they need to get fixed from the perspective of an amateur military historian. So that's just my opinion on it. I don't know what you guys think. Maybe you guys can tell me, and maybe you think that the Victoria 2 war system's perfect and that I'm just wrong. I don't know. I'm just here spouting my opinion. You guys like to watch me, so that's what I do. Overall, though, I'm extremely excited to see how this develops. I've been waiting for Victoria 3 for a very long time, as my brother and my parents and anybody who at all knows me in terms of talking to me about these games would know. This has been a very anticipated game for me. And so to see Paradox Interactive, which I've personally not been too interested in since the release of Hearts of Iron 4, which I despise with a passion, to see them releasing this game, or at least announcing it, and the fact that it's been worked on for the past 3 years, since 2018, which was 3 years ago. That's insane. It really gives me hope that they care about this game, that they really want to see this game be a true sequel to Victoria 2 while being its own game. Simply put, you can't make Victoria 2 again. No one knows how the code works. The developers have flat out said this. That's why development on the game stopped in the first place. The code on the population and the trade is such a spaghetti mess that they simply can't get into the game and work on it without rewriting the entire thing. And they have no idea how the thing worked originally because the person who worked on it is gone. So they're in a bind. So they do have to make their own system based on what they saw with Victoria 2, which is better because Victoria 2's trade system is kind of god-awful because there's no way to influence the trade that I know of, at least, and I've been playing the game for 5 years now. And there's no real way to properly influence it because as a great nation, as a great power, you should be able to influence the trade directly of the nations within your sphere, or be able to use your economic prowess to pressure other smaller nations into siding with you on a crisis. Or use your economic prowess to then pressure other great nations to alliance with you because you have a lot of a monopoly or almost a complete monopoly on certain trade goods that they need. Victoria 2 doesn't simulate this, and this is a critical aspect of 19th century politics and what formulated Europe during that time period. What kind of formed the alliances, what was in the minds of politicians before wars broke out, how people developed their trade. Russia lost the Crimean War, not necessarily because of the military aspects of it, but because of the economic strains the war put on the Russian economy because of the Dardanelles, the Straits. I can't speak English hardly. Don't expect me to pronounce foreign words correctly. The straits between, European Turkey and Asian Turkey. Those got closed during the war, and Russian trade ground to a halt, and their economy completely collapsed in on itself and had this nice big implosion for everyone to look at. That's what lost Russia the war, not the military defeats. They could have kept fighting if their economy was stable, but the people demanded peace because they were struggling thanks to the overall situation economically. Victoria 2 doesn't simulate this properly. You have the money system and you have the trade, and you can see your money slowly going down during war, but it almost feels like no matter how your economic situation is, your money is going to go down, and no amount of blockading is going to effectively speed that up, and no amount of having complete naval control is going to slow that down. I know because I've been playing for so long and I've been through these situations. It just doesn't seem like it works like that. If they can properly do that in Victoria 3, while somehow magically leaving it accessible to the general populace that doesn't want to deal with learning that, they would have accomplished something near impossible. Now, I say all this to say my expectations for this game are pretty low. Paradox Interactive, they've been fixing their reputation thanks to the release of Crusader Kings 3. From what I've gathered, it's a very, very good sequel to Crusader Kings 2 and does a very good job at representing what that game series is supposed to be and staying in line with it. But Hoi 4 does not capture the essence of Hoi 3, Hoi 2, or Hoi 1. It is a different game. And in my opinion, it is not a game that I enjoy playing. Hearts of Iron 3 has a very nice feel to it, has a very nice gameplay aspect to it. It has its flaws that Hoi 4 was supposed to fix, and in many cases did fix. But Hoi 4 changed so much that it just feels like they're barely in the same genre. They're just a grand strategy World War II based game with that skin, but they're two completely different games in terms of gameplay overall, and I just don't like the way Hoi 4 feels. I hope that doesn't happen with Victoria 3. It didn't happen with Crusader Kings 3 from what I've heard. It didn't happen with EU 4 when they released it versus EU 3. But their track record, Hoi 4, Imperator Rome, some aspects of Stellaris being broken, it almost feels like you're buying a game, getting something broken that just doesn't feel playable, and then as time goes on, as you spend more money on DLCs, you finally get something that feels complete, but not what you were expecting. So Paradox Interactive, if someone from the company, for whatever godforsaken reason, is watching this video and has continued watching till the end and watching a man with a patchy beard ramble while wearing a pickelhaube and an M1907 tunic, don't screw this up, please. Please. There are so many people who have been waiting on this game for so long that have these expectations set. But I'm also going to say that you're going to screw it up because there's no way to meet the expectations. Which is why I'm going into this with the expectations that there's going to be issues and I'm not going to like some of them, if not all of them. But if the game can capture the essence of Victoria 2, improve upon its strengths, and remove the weaknesses, I'll be happy. Go ahead and tell me what you guys think about Victoria 3's release announcement. Did you even know Victoria 2 was even a game? Are you going to check it out? If not, and you now are interested in playing it, who knows? Just discuss it in the comments. Have a flame war. I don't know. Do something. Be nice to each other. If you want to stay involved in the community, I will expect that since Victoria 3 is probably a hot topic right now on YouTube and stuff, there might be some bigger traffic on this video. So if there is, hello, welcome to the channel. I'm glad you're here. If you somehow are still here and you enjoyed the video, there's a bunch of links to stay involved in the community down in the description below, the Discord channel specifically. I'm always trying to grow that because the community is awesome. There's a lot of good people. It's not even really so that people can keep it with my channel anymore. It's just because there's a lot of cool people there, a lot of great information that even I've learned from in terms of reenactment, military collecting, and historical knowledge. A lot of really cool people that love to post long paragraphs about certain things that happened, and they have like pictures and stuff that they own that is related to it. It's just awesome. I'm really enjoying the community that's growing out of it. So definitely join that, if not anything else. But if you want to keep up with me, you can subscribe, like the video. That helps the YouTube algorithm thing because reasons, I guess. But yeah, thank you guys for watching the video. I will continue releasing videos. I am still working on lighting the powder keg, which, by the way, that takes place during this time period of, well, Victoria 2. Hang on, I'm going to real quick say something that's going to get added on to the beginning of the video, and then I'm going to go back to the finishing thing. All right, so thank you guys for watching. I'm going to continue releasing videos, hopefully on a more continual basis, but I feel like it's going to remain in this sort of unscheduled, choppy schedule where I just feel like making a video, make a video, edit it, upload it, and all that stuff. But eventually I do hope to get into more of a rhythm where quality will once again increase in terms of the editing, more effort will be put into it, and I won't be so lazy. So I appreciate the patience, everybody. I hope to catch you guys in the next one. Auf Wiedersehen und tschüss, mein Kameraden.